A bit of a somber episode, but hopefully we are in for a great weekend of college basketball. Final Four is here. Our final episode, Joe, you and I, until we get into probably some college football like preview stuff, but that's not until the summer. But it's crazy. Week 0 college football all the way till now. Here we are, Final Four weekend, maybe the greatest Final Four on paper that we've ever had. We have Auburn versus Florida. We've got Duke versus Houston, the 1 seed in each region matching up against each other. And then a great title game that we'll get into as well, potentially on Monday night. But Joe, welcome back. How are we? And ready for the final episode of the 24-25 season.
Yeah, Beef. I mean, I'm ready to roll. Like you said, this is definitely a great Final Four on paper. I do think it is going to deliver. People have been talking about, oh, this next round better deliver. Like, we've had a pretty boring tournament. And I think that's just a product of, this year we've seen these 4 teams. It's been talked about for a week now, and even longer if you're like a real diehard college basketball fan. These 4 teams, according to Ken Palm, so since what, like 96, 97, I think was the first season they did it, are 4 of the top 10 best teams of all time. And I believe Duke and Florida analytically are both better than the UConn team last year. That at the end of last season, not only because I'm a UConn fan, but people were saying like was one of the best teams we've ever seen. It's crazy how good these 4 teams are. I think we have 2 incredible matchups. And yeah, but it is, like you said, it is always bittersweet this time of year. Like after this, in terms of like college sports, like I'm not the biggest outside of the Mets. I'm not a big baseball guy, and in turn, I don't watch college baseball. So really, for me, it's I'll watch the NBA playoffs, I'll watch the NHL playoffs, but I'm not like a diehard of those 2 sports. Like this is it for me until college football starts ramping back up. So I think this is our like 4th or 5th like season of like sports doing this because we started our junior year, senior year. Yeah, this is the end of our 5th year doing this podcast, which is insane. 5 years, that's nuts. But I'm excited to dive into these games. I think we're gonna have some 2 really incredible games.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. And you were kind of saying at the beginning, like 4 of the top 10 teams ever, according to Ken Palm. The best SEC, the best conference we've ever seen, arguably in college basketball history. For a single season, we get 2 teams in the Final Four matching up against each other. You get a Duke team that is headlined by Cooper Flag. People are calling the best freshman ever if he's able to kind of cap off this run with the national title. And then a Houston team that I still kind of is playing the underdog card a little bit. It's like little Houston that came up from the American. They go to the Big 12. They don't skip a beat. They take over that conference pretty much from Kansas, and here they are in the Final Four. I feel like they're being talked about the least. And going back to Auburn as well, like Auburn was the number 1 team in the country. They were the number 1 team in the tournament, the number 1 overall seed. They were the best team throughout the entire season, and they have the lowest odds to win the national title going into this weekend at plus 500. So storylines galore, great games galore. We'll start it off on the first one, though, the SEC matchup. Number 1, Florida, coming in at 34-4 versus number 1, Auburn, 32-5. 6:09 tip on CBS. Florida minus 2.5. Over under is 159.5. And Joe, before you get into your pick on this game, what do you think it has to say about Florida needing to come back in both of these last 2 games, both against UConn and Texas Tech? Does that kind of show that they're a resilient team, or they've just been playing with their food a little bit too much, and Auburn has the potential to expose them here?
I think Auburn definitely has that potential to, kind of, catch Florida with their pants down kind of thing. Because Florida, when they came back and beat UConn, I thought that was resilience because I said it, we were breaking down the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. UConn was the back-to-back national champs. You know what I mean? So you beat a team that had been there. You beat a coach that had been there. One of the most dominant 2-year stretches in the NCAA tournament we've ever seen. Haven't seen the likes of that since Florida in 06, 07, running through the tournament like that. But then against Texas Tech, really, Florida was lucky to win the game. Texas Tech looked like the better team. And I don't know if that's, a product of fatigue of, they went all the way to the SEC title game that was on that Sunday. They won it. I don't know why it's the thumbs up when I'm counting on my finger, but or it could be a product of maybe the moment being a little bit too big for Todd Golden. I know people are saying he's one of the best coaches in the country, but when you have a guard like Clayton who has hit big shot after big shot to kind of bail you out. I think it's going to be really interesting when you're playing the number one overall seed in this tournament. But the one great equalizer, though, for Florida is what's going on with Janai Broom. I know he came back and played and was fine, but how much of that was adrenaline mixed with, whatever they might have given him or not given him in the locker room to come back out? Because you saw when he was grabbing rebounds, Coyle, he was going up with one arm. He wasn't having both arms going up. And if he's even a little bit sore and not feeling 100%, that's going to be a big impact. So I'm really interested to see how injured Janai Broom is. I hope he's healthy because I want to see both these teams at full strength go at it. But in terms of the pick, I had Florida in my bracket winning it all. I had them advancing to play Houston in the national championship game. But I think Auburn's going to win this game. I think they're going to pull off the upset. I think even if Janai Broom isn't 100%, because there's just been something with this. Like, I don't know what it is. Like I said, I'm going, I guess, with fatigue, but you have all these days off. Like, they've played against two teams that on paper are not as good as Auburn, and they have been very lucky to survive and advance. A couple missed shot. If Clayton misses that crazy, like, fade away to the side three against UConn, who knows? We could be talking about Texas Tech right now. We could be talking about UConn. We could be talking about Maryland. Like, who the hell knows what could have happened if if Clay doesn't get hot late and Florida ends up surviving. So I'm going with Auburn in the spot. I feel like I said, it happens one time, it's resilience. Happens two times, I don't want to say laziness because that's like a bad word, but it's almost like is there a little bit of luck involved? Like,
Yep.
I don't know, like you said, Quill, playing with their food might be, a really good way to put it. If you're not playing with Auburn, you're not
Yeah.
going to just toy around with Auburn. If you do that with Auburn, we could be going to the second media timeout at like the 12-minute mark, and it's like 21-6 if
Mhm.
you're not careful. But I think Auburn's going to get it done. I'll definitely take them plus the 2.5. Even if Florida wins, I don't think it'll be by a wide margin. So I'll take 2.5. I'm looking right now on ESPN, so I don't know what it is on DraftKings. I don't know what it is FanDuel. Just on ESPN, I see the spread's 2.5, over under 159.5. I'm gonna go with the over here. I feel like this will be a high scoring game. So I'll take over 159.5. I'll take Auburn plus a 2.5.
Yeah, I really like Auburn in the first half. I think Florida has struggled. We've seen, at least in the last couple matchups, even Maryland in the first half kept it pretty close as well. And you kind of saw down the stretch, I think Florida just gets better. And maybe that's just the type of team they are, that they, on the other hand, kind of wear teams out and figure teams out as the game goes on. You kind of look at it both sides of the fence. But I agree with you where if Florida comes out and has a slow start like they did against Auburn, Auburn can bury them and make this game kind of out of hand right away. Sure, Florida can come back. We've seen that before. We've seen that in a couple games in this tournament. And we've already seen Florida beat Auburn this season at Auburn. That was one of the more kind of impressive wins of the entire season. But when you just look at this game, I just can't get it wrapped around my head enough that Auburn's coming into this one as an underdog. Like, sure, Janai Broom might not be at 100%, but this is still an Auburn team that was the best team in college basketball the entire season. From start to finish, they have the best resume, the best body of work, the most quad one wins, everything you want to say. And when you look at Auburn too, when they've had something to play for, they've dominated. You look at the entire season until they won the SEC title outright with a week to go or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago. They dominated pretty much everybody in their path. And when you kind of look at that from the big picture, when they've had something to play for, which they didn't over the last kind of course of the last 2 weeks of the season going into the NCAA tournament, because they had the number one overall seed already locked up, they've been as dominant as any team we've seen kind of in recent memory. So I really like this Auburn team to come out motivated. I think the Florida guards are better than the Auburn guards, but I do like Auburn as a kind of just better overall team. And I think that they're just going to win this game. I think they prove why they've been the best team in the country all year. And we see Auburn on Monday night. And I really like the under. I know you like the over in this one, but I think if you like Auburn to win this one, I think it's going to go under. I think Auburn's going to have to kind of muck it up a little bit and not let those guards get hot. So give me the Auburn Tigers to move on. I'll take them plus 2.5. Really like them plus 110 on the money line in the first half as well. And I'll go with under 159.5 there. And then we go to Saturday night, the game I think everyone's looking forward to just a little bit more. Not saying we're not looking forward to the first one, but that second one on Saturday night has the potential to be an all-timer. Duke at minus 5.5. They come into the game with a 35-3 record, haven't lost a game by more than 6 points the entire season. Houston, the number 1 overall seed out of the Midwest region, 34-4, 849 tip on CBS. Duke 5.5 point favorite, over under sitting at 136.5.
Yeah, Coiner, you kind of said it to start out the show, but like the fact that Houston is going into this almost as a Cinderella, which is weird to say as like a 1 seed. Like you said, little old Houston a couple years ago was in the AAC. Now they dominated the Big 12. They're 34-4. They play incredible defense. And that's one thing I'm really interested in seeing is, Duke has looked dominant so far through the tournament. I'm not denying that. But I am interested to see how they do playing against this Houston team in the Final Four down in San Antonio. I know Texas is a massive state, but I would still like to think that this Houston team, or this fan base for Houston will travel. I think this is going to be a real, if Houston wants to win this game, they know they're going to have to muck it up. But I'm just interested to see if they'll even be able to do that with how skilled this Duke team is. I picked Houston in my initial bracket. I had them beating BYU in this game, but I had them going to the national championship game. I'm not saying they're going to win, but if you're giving me 5.5, I'll take the 5.5 points. I don't feel confident about it, but at the end of the day, I mean, you have a team. LJ Cryer, 50-year senior, transferred over from Baylor. I forget if he played or not, Coyle, but I believe he was on that team that won the national title, the COVID tournament. So he knows what it takes. Even if, he was a freshman at the time, he still knows what it takes to get there to a national championship. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this team is preparing. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, this is his second Final Four run in a couple of years now. And this team is a lot more healthy than that last team was. I'm really interested to see how Houston, they're gonna try and have, Duke come into the mud. Duke's gonna try to punch them in the face. But Houston is gonna make this a dogfight, a full-on wrestling match. I saw a clip earlier. It was like the Houston, Houston culture makes sense. It reminded me of the Florida when they did the mat drills. Like they were just rolling balls onto the court and having 2 guys going full speed, like tackling each other, just diving for the ball. It was awesome to watch. I don't care if it was fake. I think it was real, but it wouldn't be, shocking if someone was like, "That's a fake video, you're a moron," because I know I'm a moron. But even saying that, I think Kelvin Sampson is an incredible coach. He's been to the Final Four before. He's been doing it for so long. And I'm not saying that John Shire isn't a great coach because he's proven that he is. He can get the talent. He's gotten his guys to the Final Four. But in a weird way, because a lot of people are kind of just like dismissing Houston and talking about Duke like they're going to win the national title with these. It almost reminds me of 2015 when that Kentucky team came in undefeated and people were like, there's no one stopping them. And Wisconsin pulled off that upset. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be shocked, if Houston were to somehow win this, were to stun Duke and win the game. I'm definitely going to take Houston to cover the 5.5. I think that's a lot of points for the Big 12 champs, for the 1 seed out of the Midwest who had to get through Purdue in Indianapolis to get to the Elite Eight, and then you got through a very good Tennessee team, and at certain points in the game made Tennessee look like they didn't even belong on the same court as you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of the picks, I'm going to take Houston to cover. And then, Coy, what did you say the over/under was again?
136.5.
36.5. I'm gonna pick under. That's a bet I'll probably stay away from come game time though. I'll probably just pick a side unless our guy Richard has a over under, then I'll ride with him. But I guess for the sake of the show, I'll pick the under just because with Houston, even though they went over in that game with against Tennessee, I'm never gonna feel it's gonna be a lot more comfortable to pick the under. So I'll go with the under here. So that'll set us up for an Auburn Houston, according to me, national champion. Or excuse me, Auburn Duke. I was going off spreads. Auburn Duke national title game.
That game went under the other day. Houston.
That game went under. Someone told me it went over. That makes more sense because I was doing the math. I'm like, there's no way that game went over. But so I take it back. So I like the under, especially if Houston, like I said, I think Houston will keep it close. If they're going to cover, it's going to be a low scoring game. Yeah. They're going to be taking, the full shot clock to get a shot off. They're going to slow it down. They're going to try to make Duke uncomfortable. Like I said, I think Duke's going to win the game, but I'll take the 5.5. And like I said, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, Houston pulled this off if they were
Mhm.
to win the game.
Yeah, I think if you took one team, any team in the country, and put them out there and said like, don't care about the jersey title, you don't care about the Duke across the chest, like it would be Houston. They would be the team to care about it the least. They don't care if it's the New York Knicks, Duke. They're going to go out there and play the way that they play. They're not going to be intimidated in the moment, not afraid of the moment at all. And for that reason, I think that they're going to keep this game very close. I like them to cover the 5.5 as well. Very interested to see how Duke responds to kind of a close game. We saw them in the Georgia Tech game. Obviously, was missing Flag for basically the entire thing. And the UNC game as well, they didn't have Cooper Flag. If you remember, like the couple of Duke losses at the beginning of the year were close games, and they kind of struggled down the stretch. It's a team that's been so dominant throughout the season. How did they fare in a game that is close, is down to the wire, and is very physical? I really like the under in this one. I think it's going to be super physical, like 68, 65, something in that regard. Two really good defenses. I think it's played in the half court a lot. I think Duke will be better off if they are able to make it a track meet and get it going up and down and basically challenge Houston to go shot for shot with them, because I don't think Houston at the end of the day could. But if Houston's able to kind of dictate the tempo, dictate the pace, they're going to be in this game till the end. I would be surprised if they win it. No, but I think I am going to roll with Duke. I'm holding the Houston 11-1 national title ticket still in the back pocket, so I'll be rooting for Houston on Saturday night. But I do think Duke eventually wins and gives us a Duke versus Auburn national title. So with that being said, Joe, I go Houston plus 5.5, under 136.5. We both have Duke and Auburn. I think the two teams have been the best over the course of the entire season meeting up on Saturday night. You like Duke or Auburn to cut down the nets?
I'll go Auburn here to pull off what I'm assuming will be the upset spread wise in the national championship game. I just, at the end of the day, am going to go with the experience over, I know Cooper Flag is incredible. He's going to be a great NBA player. He has the potential to be one of the all time greats at the NBA level. People are already talking about him as one of, if not the best freshman, ever. But I think at the end of the day, Janai Broome and Auburn and all that experience and all that age, I think that's going to be the big difference against Duke. And I think Auburn's going to cut down the nets and win the national championship. First time in their program's history. I think it's only the second Final Four, and I during the Elite Eight, I think they said it was only their third ever Elite Eight, let alone Final Four. So great job, for Auburn. I think it's going to be capping off an incredible season. And they had that little bit of a lull, but they have looked like once the NCAA tournament started, they were kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, we won the regular season championship for the SEC. Look, some people say, there's people that value the regular season more than the conference tournament. They were kind of like, listen, whatever happens in the conference tournament happens. Even if we lose, we'll just lock in, get ready for, for March Madness. And now here they are in the Final Four. And, people were saying, oh, they lost 3 of their last 4. I don't know if they'll get the number 1 overall seed. Now here they are, one of the player of the year candidates, and especially if Janai Broome is totally healthy. Like if he's banged up, then it will probably be Florida Duke. But if he is 100% good to go, and you'll be able to tell within the first 5-10 minutes if Janai Broome's looking good, against Florida on Saturday, evening. Um, but I think Auburn is going to get it done against Duke. And people will be rejoicing in the streets because Duke got denied another national championship. And this will be the one and done run for Cooper Flag. An incredible season, really. A kid. It is like one of my old man takes. Where like I would love to see him come back for another season.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was like the old days when like people like Shaq stayed for 3 years, like that would be insane. Like getting 2 more years of Cooper Flag in college, that'd be great. But like I said, he's gonna have an incredible career going forward. I just think in the national championship game, it's gonna be close, but Duke's gonna fall short, and Auburn's gonna win the national championship.
Yeah, projected spreads for the title games. Duke versus Florida would be Duke minus 4.5. Houston versus Florida would be Florida minus 1.5. Auburn versus Duke, Duke would be minus 5.5. And Houston versus Auburn, Houston would be minus 1. So the closest one there. I'm with you too, Joe. I think Duke's going to cap it off and finish things off here. Cooper Flag, as you said, maybe finishing off the greatest freshman season that we've ever seen. Auburn, maybe the greatest team we've ever seen. I think regular season wise, you can make the argument if Auburn does finish it off, maybe they have a case as a top 5 team in college basketball history. You just look at the entire season of winning the best conference that we've ever seen, and then go beat this dominant Duke team as well. I think the storylines are a premium. I would definitely take the Auburn plus 5.5 as well. I think that game would be a war. But I think Duke's just kind of got that it factor to them. John Shire, I think, gets his first of many probable titles here at Duke. I think Duke maybe even have a higher ceiling with John Shire going forward than they did Coach K. It's wild to say, but he's very young and he can do this. He's going to be at Duke for probably till, I don't even want to say it, till we die, maybe probably not that
I don't know
far.
about death, but at the very least, probably till we have grandkids. I'm not saying till death do us part with with Shire yet, but he's going to be there for a long time. So buckle up. As much as the Duke haters out there, it's going to be another. If he is, as long as he wants to stay there, we could be looking at another Coach K, like 30, 40, 50 year, situation there. So.
But yeah, I think this is the first of many for Duke. I had them in the bracket. Not really a shell shocker there. They were the most picked team, the favorite, plus 300. And I never do that. I never pick the favorite because I'm always like, all right, if you're going to win the bracket, take someone different to at least give yourself a chance. Because if you don't do great in the first couple rounds, and even if you have the champion, you're still not coming anywhere close. But I was just that confident in this Duke team kind of going in. I think Auburn is the team to give them a real shot. But I do think anyone can give them a game, whether it's Florida, whether it's Houston in the national title game. I think whatever combination of teams we get in the national title game, it's going to be awesome. I wish it was Houston versus Duke on the other side for the national championship, but I do think the collision course of Duke-Auburn is kind of what we've been building up towards all year, and it would be cool to kind of see them kind of finish off the story. So I'm going to go with Duke to win the national title. I will take Auburn plus a 5.5, though, if it gets to that stage. That'll do it for another season here of Beef Up Front, college football, college basketball podcast. I guess I got to get back on the clock probably, what are we, April 2nd? Probably about 2 months from now, being on a beach or somewhere, starting to read up on some college football magazines and diving into that. But anything else before we head out, Joseph?
Another incredible season, Beef. Always a pleasure. Year 5 in the books. I mean, if you want to even consider the couple of radio shows at Miz we did before COVID, you're looking at a 6th school year of sports, 6th, like calendar year of sports we've been talking, doing this show together. And cheers to 5 years and hopefully many, many more.
You said it, Joseph. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.